Hello, I'm Sharon Dawes, Senior Fellow at the Center for Technology and Government and Professor of Public Administration and Policy at the State University of New York in the United States. In my research, I study the combination of policies, organizations, technologies, and data as they interact in the context of important public problems and government programs. Recently, I conducted a case study of the Open Government Data Program in New York City. In this lecture, I'll share with you the findings of that case study and lessons that can be useful in any open government data initiative. After this video, you should be able to analyze open government data programs as dynamic ecosystems that are shaped by their social and technical contexts. More specifically, you should be able to identify the social and technical factors that characterize open government data programs, identify the key actors as well as their resources and capabilities, and describe how feedback among ecosystem elements affects performance and benefits. The main message is that analyzing open government data programs as ecosystems helps you assess existing conditions and figure out how different combinations of policies, strategies, practices, and participants can lead to different results. You could think of an OGD ecosystem as looking something like this. In this simple view, we see three kinds of stakeholders or key actors: data providers, data users, and the beneficiaries of data use. We can also see that the ecosystem is a dynamic combination of activities and influences. These include motivations, policies and strategies, data publication and use, and benefits. I'd like to explore this idea further by telling you about New York City and its open government data program. First, a quick profile of New York. It's the largest city in the U.S. with 8.5 million people. City government is led by an elected mayor and city council and administered by 43 public agencies. New York's mixed economy is particularly strong in the technology sector, and it has a large and active civic technology community. And New York is a very diverse city that has a strong tradition of social and political advocacy and frequent public-private NGO partnerships. These characteristics are important to keep in mind if you want to compare OGD programs in different places. I'll come back to this point later. New York's Open Government Data Program began in 2012 with a local law that authorized a city open data portal. It also required all city departments to appoint open data coordinators and to publish all of their data sets by 2018. The Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications is responsible for the portal and for technical data standards, as well as for publicly reporting progress each year. Every department creates its own data release plan. They can choose among data formats and devise their own data preparation processes and publication priorities. Most publish their data as is, except for any special processing to protect personal privacy. All offer some form of communication with data users, and at least in technical terms, the data quality is generally good. By 2016, more than 2,000 datasets, or 80% of the total, had been published on the portal. The New York City Open Data Portal hosts a lot of activity in terms of access and downloads, but of course it's the actual use of data that generates benefits. Like many governments, New York sponsors a competition for innovative uses of government data. The Big Apps competition has attracted more than 500 submissions and awarded more than $350,000 in prizes. These contests generate a lot of enthusiasm, but while many apps have been developed, few are sustainable as business models. This happens because the data usually needs considerable enhancement before it's readily usable for purposes outside government. However, most developers are individuals, startups, or academics that lack the resources to make these expensive investments in data improvement. In addition, Big Apps winners must make their apps available to the public free of charge for a year after the award, making it especially difficult to build a business around them. Some apps that analyze and present data in visualizations or other formats useful to ordinary people could be considered co-produced public services that the city could or should provide if it had the resources to do so. Recently, the Big Apps competition has been refocused on specific public needs, such as affordable housing, that follow this co-production philosophy. But whether and how city government can help sustain these efforts remains an open question. New York City government invests in substantial feedback and communication with data users. For example, each department has a mechanism for accepting user feedback or questions. More important, perhaps, government professionals take part in many community-organized events, online forums, and meetups to discuss data quality, usability, and other topics. The city is also itself an active user of data and analytical tools to help run government more effectively. Taking all this into consideration, New York's open data ecosystem is quite mature. 3 key stakeholder groups are associated with different elements of the ecosystem. These actors interact with the data through publication, use, and consumption of data products. More than that, the system includes relatively robust feedback and communication among the stakeholders. But this is not the whole story. Every OGD ecosystem performs differently because it's strongly shaped by its own social, political, and cultural context. In New York, that means a politically engaged population with many views, talents, and resources. By analyzing New York's OGD program as an ecosystem, we observed several strengths. The legal framework is strong, clear, and consistent. The decision to publish everything emphasizes the political commitment to transparency and encourages agencies to manage their data with public disclosure in mind. Leaving implementation details to departmental discretion allows them to work toward citywide goals at their own pace and within their existing capabilities. The involvement of city staff with the civic technology community encourages feedback and helps identify and prioritize the needs of data users. The reorientation of the Big Apps competition to targeted problem solving helps bring civic technologists, community leaders, and government agencies together around important local needs. And a long tradition of advocacy around all sorts of local issues is extended to open data, thus keeping data needs and problems on the public agenda. But the problem also has some weaknesses, and paradoxically, some of the strengths have built-in problems. The policy to publish everything, while politically valuable, is expensive. Only a small portion of the more than 2,000 datasets published account for the vast majority of external use. Departmental discretion over implementation leads to wide variations in communication and feedback practices. Few apps developed with OGD are commercially viable, partly because the data needs considerable improvement, which is labor-intensive and usually beyond the means of most data entrepreneurs. And the Big Apps requirement for winners to make the submitted version of their apps available for a year for free discourages commercially viable submissions, and those that offer quasi-public services need more public support to survive. New York is just one case, but by using an ecosystem approach, we can see how various factors interact to produce both benefits and challenges. This approach can be useful in any setting because it makes context a key part of the story. For New York, the social, political, economic, and technological contexts have strong, mostly positive influences on what is desirable, feasible, and acceptable. A different government will generate different results that reflect its own context. Summing up, the ecosystem approach to open government data is not a recipe for success, but rather a way of analyzing how different arrangements among key factors offer different possibilities for achieving results. Keep in mind that these programs are complex systems of interacting social and technical factors. The capabilities of different stakeholders and their relationships with one another all matter. When these elements are in good alignment, benefits are more likely. Where that is not the case, the ecosystem view helps us pinpoint where to invest energy and resources to help an OGD program perform better. Think about a familiar OGD ecosystem and try to apply this kind of analysis. Consider motivation and authority, context, actors, and relationships. Look for evidence of feedback and communication. This information will help you identify strengths and weaknesses in the overall system that help explain how and how well it performs. Thanks for joining me to learn about the Open Government Data Program in New York City and open government data ecosystems.